There are 1,000,000 ways to die. We just wanna talk about it. Codeheads.
Welcome back, Codeheads, for part 2 of GLP-1s.
Definitely warranted a second part. Our guest was tremendous, Lori, and she's kind enough to return with us today.
The show. So we are going to continue a lovely conversation, and we hope that you enjoy. Times with the weight loss, even for those who need it, it's not fun weight loss, because I do have a couple of good friends on it. There's nausea, there can be, actual vomiting, diarrhea, they can get some constipation, if they're changing their doses. So that's why actually some people who even need it will stop.
Yep.
Purely because of the nausea. I actually had a friend and they had to change her from one to the other because of insurance purposes. So they changed brand names, and she was so at work and she's like, oh my God, I'm so nauseous. It's like, they just changed me to like whatever, this new one. And that's what it is. And I'm like, God, that's miserable. Turns out she had norovirus, but she was like convinced because that's how it was when she first started taking it.
Yep.
She was like that nauseous. And then she was like, oh, no, this is actually norovirus.
And I feel like that's the thing, is people need to realize that I don't want to say it's a miracle drug, but it definitely, again, it's changed how we practice weight management in many places, but it does come with side effects. And I think people have to be ready to also understand that starting slow and advancing slowly with your dosing is really necessary. Like, I think people get so anxious about the fact that they haven't lost any weight yet. And so they'll go up to a dose that maybe they weren't quite ready for. And it really does have this impact on those GI side effects. And then, I mean, some people do the tapering correctly and they still have the side effects. And it really does impact their daily life, especially around the injection days, which, sometimes may not be worth it for some people.
And it's, because you're giving yourself a hormone. I mean, people don't think about that. And whenever you're adding a hormone or anything, like, you're changing how like your thyroid responds or your pancreas, like, it's not, hormones are signaling, there's like receptors all throughout our brain and whatever, and every hormone is signaling something else, and it might be signaling numerous things within our body. At the same time. So people are like, I'll just go up a little bit, and they don't realize like going up a little bit is like that's like a lot for your body. That's a lot like for your brain, your receptors. Things are going to go a little bit haywire, and that is too why people may be, all of a sudden realizing that they have gallstones, because there's all this like change in the amount of fat that they're eating now, not eating or whatever, and all these changes in their body. So they can get cholecystitis and have to come into the hospital, pancreatitis. There's issues. There are black box warnings about the medullary thyroid carcinoma. So that's a concern or a risk. So if you do have a family history of thyroid cancer, they really want to watch you closely and or inform you that you may be at a higher risk.
Right. I feel like you can't, that's why they shouldn't take these meds lightly necessarily, the way they're portrayed in social media and on television and whatever, because it's a big decision to make, and it may have lifelong, not complications, but you may have, times when you really don't feel that well. So, and I feel like that people don't necessarily realize that when they are placed on these medications. So we always recommend to patients, they'll come in and say like, I'm so nauseous, I can't eat, or I'm throwing up the day after the shot, or whatever it is. And we're like, you need to talk to the prescribing, physician on this. And so maybe you can switch to a different brand or change to a lower dose. But I feel like people just sometimes just put up with it.
Is it accurate to say, like, if you don't make the significant lifestyle changes and solely rely on the medication for your appearance going forward, are you married to the med for life? And if you do stop, is it true there's like a rebound weight gain, like where it might happen fast and it could be significant? Is that accurate?
Incoming fun fact.
I guess so.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to let Lori answer more intently, but my incoming fun fact is that interrupting your treatment, even briefly, from like the cardiovascular standpoint, can rapidly reverse all of those benefits that you had.
Yeah.
So any, decrease that you had for stroke or, myocardial infarction, et cetera, you are at a significant now increase for the heart attack, stroke, and death if you just all of a sudden stop it.
So you are married if you
Yeah.
don't.
I mean,
If you're
and I
not.
think for the weight loss portion, most patients, if they stop the medication, they do gain most of the weight back. There are some patients who sort of do hit a plateau and maybe don't gain all of it back. But you do, I mean, really, once you come off the med, the weight gain does happen for most people, unless they've made those significant lifestyle changes, where then that is a different population. But I think they still experience the but I didn't realize the cardiac risk factor comes back so fast, Bridget. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's like they said, even if you skip a day or two, it's
Really?
like, yeah, it goes right back to what it
You might have to, if it does make you feel like crap, you might have to endure that feeling, you know, for
Yeah.
life if you don't want to risk those, side
Well,
effects. If you're not making the changes, if you're not putting the
right.
changes in place.
But also, I mean, if you really don't want to endure it and whatever, go to a cardiologist, and I think that they can figure out other ways to
Well, I meant the milder, not milder, but nausea, vomiting, discomfort. Like, all right, I got to wake up and deal with this, but it's all for the greater good, sort of.
In some ways, though, I think that it teaches people how to eat because
Yeah.
you get really nauseous and stuff if you eat too much. I remember my plumber getting on it, and he was like, "Oh my God, whatever. Oh, I feel like it's like all up here." And I was like, at first I was like, "Oh my God, is he having a heart attack?" But then he was telling me because he had lost a lot of weight, and then I was like, "All right, well, what did you eat?" Just like, "Oh, I had this grinder." It was like, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's like the size of a small child." He's like, "Well, I used to be able to eat that." And he's like, I ate like 3/4 of it." I was like, maybe 1/4 is like the size of an actual meal that you should be having. And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "But that's all I eat all day." And I was like, "Well, all our meals throughout the day, mayhaps." Then he was like, and then he called me like a couple of days later. He's like, that worked out." And I was like, "Oh, good news."
Well, I think that's the thing is I think people are not necessarily getting that nutrition counseling on the side to help them manage their symptoms. Because I think if there's my plug for the registered dietitian piece, but a lot of these patients are not seeing dietitians. And I feel like they can really help manage those symptoms and give suggestions on better meal choices at, spreading things out during the day, making sure that your fat intake is there, and making sure that you're getting enough, even things like vitamins and minerals in. I think when you're not eating as much as you were, like often we're seeing different vitamin deficiencies and whatnot. So I feel like you need to have like a whole team approach to this medication to make sure you're getting the exercise and the nutrition and the medication that you really need.
And I just want to put a plug in. I think that everyone should see, a registered dietitian. I can't tell you how often, like, I've reached out to Lori about things for like me or the kids or like whatever, because even though I know a lot of things and stuff, like she knows even more about like, oh, well, maybe you should do this with this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so many different things that I think people in general, they listen to things on social media, they watch, that's where people get their facts from. And a lot of these people that are out there touting these health and wellness and nutrition things have no clue. And so, I think it's important because I think there's a huge link with these GLP-1s with like mental health. Because I know that for those that have really struggled and tried and, the GLP-1s have, and then again, in some of the research that I was looking up, have shown huge mental health benefits. They have gotten, they have just, their personalities have changed. They feel so much better because they didn't feel good about themselves because of whatever extra weight that they couldn't lose. And they finally, and I'm not talking about the people who have made themselves into like popsicle sticks. I'm talking about, people who are just like, they're now happy with the body that they're in and they feel more comfortable and they just physically feel better. So it might've been the side effects at first of the nausea and whatever, but now they actually physically feel better. Their mental health is better. And it's,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like those things make an enormous difference in people's lives, and that's why you want them to succeed if they go on a GLP. So really, the team approach is so necessary to make sure you're handling all the symptoms appropriately. And that being said, there are some patients who go on this medication and have no side effects. It's easy peasy for them, and it's I think those are the ones that really do well because they don't have to worry about the GI side effects. But if there's someone listening who's on this medication who has side effects, like please reach out to your doctor ask to see a dietitian and, make sure that you can help manage those things. You don't have to do it, alone.
And do you have any suggestions of where people could find a reputable registered dietitian if their doctor isn't getting back to them, or they just want to kind of do something independently?
Yeah, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has a find a dietitian part on their website, so you could find actual registered dietitians. Because I will say, again, my plug for dietitians is that there are a lot of nutrition experts out there who are claimed to be nutritionists, and that's not the same thing as a registered dietitian. So to be really careful looking for those people with the actual RD credentials. They're registered, nationally accredited, but then they're also usually locally licensed. So that Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics will have actual registered dietitians on their websites in your local area that you can look up.
And they're amazing. They can do physical assessments as well as help you go through your nutritional needs. And they are amazing. So I think we learned a lot. I think there's still a lot of questions about GLP-1s, but I think we learned a lot. We covered a lot of topics. And Lori, we want to thank you so much for being here with us today. And all you Codeheaders, reach out and touch us. We still have our Ask Codeheads. And if you have any topics you want us to hit, you know where to find us.
There are 1 million ways to die. We just wanna talk